The rain on Kepler Station drummed a steady rhythm against the metal streets, slicking the alleys with a sheen of oil and grime. Neon signs buzzed and flickered, reflecting off puddles like broken shards of forgotten promises. Jarek pulled his hood tighter, credits jingling in his pocket. A sound far too loud for a man who was about to lose everything. He hadn't meant to come to the lower bazaar. No sane person did. But sanity had a price, and in the darker corners of the galaxy, life had become a commodity cheaper than plasma rounds. Jarek's boots splashed through puddles as he reached a rusted warehouse draped in hollow ads for exotic livestock. His stomach turned. He knew what that meant. Everyone did. Inside, the smell hit him first. Burned hair, antiseptic, and the faint, metallic scent of blood. Cages lined the walls, stacked 3 high. Some held off-world creatures bred for consumption. 6-eyed eels from Veron 9. Worm rabbits from Sigma Verge. But others held something far worse. He found them near the back. The alien cat girls. Their fur-covered ears twitched under shock collars, tails limp, eyes dull with hunger and defeat. Their species, the Felinari, had once been revered across sectors for their grace, intelligence, and artistry. But after the fall of Velrith Prime, the black market syndicates swooped in, turning survivors into product. Meat. Jarek clenched his fists. A seller approached, his cybernetic eye scanning Jarek's face for weakness. Looking for a meal or a pet? The seller rasped. Jarek's throat tightened. He reached into his pocket and felt the cold plastic of his last credit chips. All of them, he said. The seller's brows lifted. All? You don't look like a corp man. I'm not. Then you must be stupid. Probably, Jarek whispered. The seller leaned closer, his breath foul. 5 Felinari females. Fresh stock. Bought them from the Rim colonies before they could breed. That's rare meat, my friend. They're not meat, Jarek growled. A crooked smile split the seller's face. They're whatever you pay for. Jarek shoved the credits forward. Every chip he owned. Everything he'd saved since leaving the Terran army. Enough to maybe buy a way out of this hellhole system. Enough for a ticket to the outer planets. Gone. The seller bit each chip, scanned them, then barked a command to a droid handler. The cages hissed open. The Felinari girls flinched, their tails curling between their legs. One had matted gray fur streaked with blood at her temple. Another held a kitten-sized companion close to her chest. Jarek didn't know their names, didn't know their stories. But he knew what would have happened if he hadn't come tonight. Come with me, he whispered, voice breaking. They stared at him, wide-eyed, ears pinned flat. The smallest one hissed weakly, but her hands shook too much to claw. I'm not here to hurt you, Jarek said, kneeling. I'm getting you out. The tallest, silver-furred, with bright, haunted eyes, finally stepped forward. Her collar sparked. She winced but reached out, touching his arm lightly, claws barely grazing his sleeve. Why? She whispered in broken Terran. Because he couldn't stop seeing his daughter's face when he looked at them. Because the galaxy was a graveyard of apathy, and he was tired of adding to the bones. Because someone has to. They moved fast. The seller didn't care what happened after the deal. He'd been paid. But Jarek knew eyes watched him from the shadows. Syndicates didn't like losing stock, and the Felinari weren't just valuable. They were a delicacy for the elite. Jarek led the girls to the labyrinth of alleys, his pulse hammering. The youngest limped. He scooped her into his arms, ignoring the sharp sting of claws digging into his jacket. Almost there, he whispered. His old cargo ship waited on Dock C-17, a rusted relic from his war days, but it flew, and that was enough. They reached the bay, but the mercenaries were already there. 3 of them, heavy armor, pulse rifles glowing in the night. Stop right there, hero. The lead merc sneered. Jarek set the smallest girl down gently. Run, he whispered to the others. They didn't move. The silver-furred one stepped in front of him, ears high, defiant despite her shaking limbs. We won't leave you. The mercenary laughed. Cute. Maybe I'll throw you back in the crate after I gut him. Jarek's hand hovered over his sidearm. He hadn't drawn a weapon since the Battle of Seraph's Reach. He'd promised himself he was done killing, that he was finished being the monster the war had made him. But sometimes, monsters had to fight monsters. Last warning. The Merc barked. Jarek pulled his pistol. The first shot punched through the lead Merc's visor, splattering metal and blood across the dock wall. The second Merc fired, but Jarek rolled, grabbed a crate for cover, and returned fire. Plasma rounds cracked through the air. The Felinari girls huddled behind him, ears pressed flat, but they didn't scream. They knew better. Jarek took a shot to the shoulder, but kept firing, teeth gritted against the pain. The second Merc dropped. The third ran. Coward. Jarek staggered to his feet, smoke rising from his pistol's barrel. He turned to the girls, blood soaking his jacket. "We're not safe yet," he rasped. The ship groaned as it lifted from the dock, anti-grav engine stuttering like an old man's cough. Jarek slumped into the pilot's seat, one hand gripping his bleeding shoulder. The Felinari huddled in the cargo hold, eyes wide, tails flicking nervously. But they were alive. For now. "Where to?" his ship AI croaked, voice still half-broken from lack of updates. Jarek thought for a moment. There were systems beyond the syndicate's reach. Fringe planets where no one cared who you were or what you looked like. Places where freedom still meant something. "Set course for Solace 9, he ordered. The AI beeped. Coordinates locked. Jarek leaned back, eyes closing for just a second. He felt for a brush against his hand. The silver-furred Felinari was beside him, her ears twitching softly. "You saved us," she whispered. "No," Jarek muttered. "I bought you." Her eyes narrowed. "Same thing. To us." He opened his eyes, meeting her gaze. "You're free now." She tilted her head. "What is free?" Jarek's throat tightened. "It means no one owns you." Her ears flicked uncertain. "Then what do we do?" "Whatever you want." The words sounded strange in the cold air of the cockpit, like a prayer whispered to God he no longer believed in. The silver-furred girl reached out, took his hand gently, claws retracting. "Then we stay with you. For now." Jarek didn't argue. He just nodded, blinking back something wet from his eyes. Outside the ship's viewport, the stars stretched into lines as they jumped to faster-than-light. Behind them, Kepler Station shrank into nothing. Ahead of them, somewhere in the dark, was a place where no one would sell sentient beings for meat. A place where they could heal. A place where maybe, just maybe, they could be more than survivors.